Concluding our tour through the capital metro of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we take a look at two malls. One is alive and thriving, while the other has fallen and is little more than a memory. We'll start with a failure, and this corridor is the only thing that remains: the Camp Hill Mall. Camp Hill Mall was already established in the 70s as a simple outdoor mall, but the developer at the time, Kravitz Properties, had the bright idea to convert the strip plaza into an enclosed mall, and would begin in the 80s. Boscov's would sign on in 1985 to open a new store, and would serve as the primary anchor for the Camp Hill shopping mall. Montgomery Ward would be a second anchor to the north end, and Pathmark would be a junior anchor around the middle. While Boscov's has been around, and probably will remain for years, Montgomery Ward would close in the early 2000s, and the Pathmark would have become home to a giant supermarket at some point. However, the mall was already struggling by the 90s. Boscov's was doing excellent at the time, and would use the vacant space in the mall to expand their store, hosting a grand reopening in 1998. That mall entrance we saw earlier is not the original entrance for Boscov's. Efforts were made to keep the mall on its feet, which included attracting a large bookstore in 1999. While it was implied that Borders books would be coming to the mall, there is no evidence to support this after the mention in the papers. Additionally, a Borders Books was already present elsewhere in the immediate area. Regardless, business was slipping away further. Camp Hill Mall was emptying out. While Giant remained at the location, they would demolish the old Montgomery Ward building to make way for a Supergiant location, which they would relocate to. While we didn't see much of Borders at Camp Hill, we would see Barnes & Noble join the lineup in due time. That single corridor is all that remains of the original mall. But let's go into the Boscov's before we move on. We can see some remnants of the original mall inside, and you'll be able to say you Boscov today. Let's wrap up the history for this place. After purchasing the Camp Hill Mall in 2002 for the low price of $18.2 million, Cedar Realty would announce a major redevelopment program around the same time Giant was expanding. There is no concrete date pointing towards the time these plans were carried out, but sometime around 2006, the mall was closed and turned inside out, effectively returning this mall to being a strip center. This would end the legacy of Camp Hill Mall, and our last remnant of the mall's existence is near Boscov's. Camp Hill's legacy ends here, as little more than a leftover in a strip mall. At least I can respect the intention to repurpose the existing space and land, rather than building a new shopping center somewhere else and leaving this property as a blighted derelict. Based on that single corridor, I can imagine the mall had a very earthy aesthetic, with plenty of tans and browns to behold. Given the pictures I could find on this place, this seemed to be the case, in addition to the mall being very dark inside, relying primarily on lights of storefronts to illuminate the interior. Unfortunately, it is difficult to find anything beyond that corridor near Boscov's, so that leaves this mall's interior still shrouded in mystery. Nonetheless, you can still find some remnants of the mall in Boscov's. It's not obvious, but it is there. Maybe you can spot some of the more obvious markings like the skylight. It is interesting to see Boscov's take advantage of the vacancy inside the mall in order to expand its footprint. I guess when in doubt, just cannibalize the mall space for larger tenants. Of course, this being 2020, a lot of the services in Boscov's were unavailable, which included the candy counter. Considering McDonald's and Walmart were wide open by this time, you'd think we could have kept the trend going with unhealthy substances being available. I guess not. Nonetheless, Boscov's at least still has reasonable prices and merchandise that you might actually need. Most other department stores have crazy markups which only serve to manipulate you during the big sales. Whereas Boscov seemingly not only has fair prices, but they also have associates that seem to genuinely care about their jobs, creating a pleasant atmosphere. And of course, if you can find one of the old stores with all the neon, you get a lovely, bombastic time capsule of the early 90s. That's enough about Camp Hill. Let's go across the street for the last mall near Harrisburg. Capital City Mall was across the freeway from Camp Hill and had faced turmoil of its own. However, it now stands as the dominant shopping mall of the region, holding strong despite the coming economic downturn. As a Crown American original, Capital City Mall opened its doors for the first time in 1974 with the anchors Bowman's, Murphy's Mart, and Sears. The mall also hosted a movie theater to bolster its appeal. While dealing with competition at the time, other malls in the area were set in different boroughs of the state capital region, allowing Capital City to get on its feet. In 1979, Bowman's would shut its doors and would turn over to become Hess's in the same year. However, 1985 would prove to be the start of a serious challenge, as the Camp Hill Mall opened up as an enclosed mall around that time. You can imagine how fierce competition would be with two malls literally across the freeway from each other. In order to reinvent itself, Capital City Mall would announce more changes underway for the mall, with Murphy's converting to Ames in 1987. Around that same time, we would see the Garden Grove Food Court, reported to be one of the first food courts established. Later on in 1995, the Hess's pad would turn over to May department stores, reopening as a Hecht's. Meanwhile, Ames would shut its doors for the last time in 1995, and would turn over quickly to become a JCPenney, as we can see ahead. Over the next 3 years, the Capital City Mall would be renovated, updating its image, and would update its image again in the mid-2000s. Hecht's would convert to Macy's around that time, and the food court would relocate to take over the old movie theater space. By this time, the Capital City Mall would prove to be victorious, while the Camp Hill Mall would lose out and become a strip mall once again. The Capital City Mall didn't stop there, though, as they brought in new businesses, revamped the food court, and added additional mall space. Pennsylvania Real Estate Investment Trust, who owned the mall by now, even put time into the out parcels, demolishing a shuttered Toys R Us to bring in outdoor stores, Field and Stream. However, in 2016, Sears would announce its inevitability, and would close its doors by 2017. Their space would become subletted to make way for Dick's Sporting Goods and a wine and beer shop. Meanwhile, Dave & Buster's would take over a vacancy left behind by Old Navy, and in 2019, Field & Stream would be rebranded as a Sportsman's Warehouse as part of a merger of chains. And that brings us down to today, where this mall is still going strong with no signs of slowing down. Even Kung Flu Coffin has failed to stop it. What do I think about the mall? Well, I'm gonna be blunt. I don't like the way this mall looks. While yes, it's alive and well, the interior is just so underwhelming architecturally. A lot of the cool stuff that would have been present in the Crown American days was likely ripped out to make way for kiosks and open space, as well as to cut back on operating costs. While I can understand the move behind it, that doesn't mean I'm gonna hate it any less. Once again, it just leads to a situation where the most interesting parts of the mall architecture are outside. So, you may have noticed in the video that there was a time discrepancy between Camp Hill and Capital City. Well, that wasn't my initial intention. It was to capture both malls same day for a sort of case study. Unfortunately, in 2020, I got stopped by security. Yeah, they tried to stop the Doomie. I had to regroup and rethink a way to cover this mall properly, and in 2021, I got that opportunity. Even though it's not the most interesting mall visually, I pulled through in the end, just for you. Of course, coming here in 2021 had its own set of issues. I ended up having to do what I call the security dance, which is why the footage has discrepancies of its own. I also recall having to wait quite a while to get anything near Macy's, as all 5 security guards decided to have a talk right there in the court. It's like this mall is cursed or something. But nonetheless, this is the tale of 2 malls. Capital City won and is doing well today, while Camp Hill lost and got demalled in the process. Let this be a reminder of what happens when 2 malls are built so close to each other. Capital City was lucky to walk away alive, as I've seen some cases where 2 malls built on top of each other both ended up dying and getting knocked down or repurposed. In fact, next video or so, you might see a mall where we explore a case just like that. But that's enough from me. What did you think about the malls? What was your favorite to learn about? Which mall did you love and which one did you hate? Or did you love or hate both? Do comment down below after dropping a like and subscribing for more. We do still have more malls to tour. Thanks for having me, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you, and the Capital City Mall, and Camp Hill, farewell, and good luck in the future.